Hey guys, welcome to a new Nashville Masterclass. I am your host, James. Please God, bring me down, May. And today we're going to be talking about psychedelic trauma, HPPD, which is hallucinogen persisting perception disorder. Now, ever since hallucinogens came into vogue in the 60s, everybody's heard the horror stories of a bad trip. But what a lot of people don't understand is there's bad trips and then there's bad trips. I've heard people say, they've had bad trips before, but it didn't stop them from using again. I don't think you had a bad trip. I think you had a bad experience and one that was difficult. But a true bad trip, a really one, will twist your mind and your grasp on reality so much that it will cause PTSD. I have PTSD from several trips, from me not stopping using hallucinogens, true psychedelics, like classic psychedelics, LSD, psilocybin, deliriants, like henbane. Then you have your dissociatives like ketamine, dextromethorphan, and PCP. These can all cause HPPD and PTSD. And just because you've done 1,000 trips and you think you really have a handle on things means nothing, because you will find out real quick that there are places that psychedelics can take you to, or it doesn't matter how strong your mind is, how much you meditate, the psychedelics completely take over.
Who the fuck are you? Yeah!
And then you're in a world of hurt. I actually have dreams where I lose my ego completely. Now, for those of you who do not know what ego death is, it's where you completely forget everything about yourself. And there is no point of reference. So if you're tripping, it can take you to a place where you're seeing all these psychedelic hallucinations, but you can't think, oh, I just took a drug. I remember, but there's this thing on Netflix or Hulu about all these famous people who took psychedelics. And one of them's like, if you ever just have a bad trip, just remember that you just took a drug. Well, with ego death, you can't remember you just took a drug because you never existed. You have no idea who you are, what you are. You have no idea what drugs are, what reality is, that you were ever born, that the universe was ever created. You were just a conscious observing. And it is as jarring as, let's just say, a woman gave birth to a human that had full consciousness, full awareness, and you immediately injected them with LSD and just kind of threw them out. That's what it's like. You are that frightened, and it can seep into your daily life. Like with HPPD, I always see tracers. I cannot remember what it was like before when I didn't see tracers. I see tracers of all light. When I close my eyes, I just see psychedelic fractals folding in on themselves. That's always. And it's something that will never go away. And I have such bad PTSD that even when I would smoke weed, beyond the normal panic attack a lot of people have, it would lead me back into these bad trips. And especially when I was on methadone, I would have, I guess the best way to describe it would be like to have a DMT flashback in your dreams, where it looked 100% real. I've been lost in trips for days, for years in my mind. Anybody that's taken DMT knows what I'm talking about. You can go and be trapped in a trip and it lasts for years, and when you come to, you were only under the influence for 15 minutes. But it really doesn't matter, because if those years were real to you, then they were real. And that's what makes people start questioning what reality is. I mean, reality in and of itself is very skewed. Nothing is what it seems. None of us can say definitively where we came from, why we're here, what happens when we die, what was going on before we were born. Any of that, we don't know. And psychedelics, when you take them, they will just force these questions to the forefront, where you can't shy away, you can't shove them. And one reason they're good for trauma from other things is they will force you to deal with that trauma all in that amount of time. I am really interested in the MDMA going to the FDA to become legalized, because I've tried to get MAPS is this study where they're doing MDMA, and I can't ever get in because I don't ever live close enough to where they're doing the trials. There are some psychiatrists that do it anyway, illegal or not, and if I could find one, I most certainly would go to one, because psychedelic trauma it's something that you can't look at and say, okay, so this happened, but this doesn't all, like when something bad happened, a car wreck, someone was killed, this and that, you can look at it in a certain way and try to start healing these wounds. With psychedelics, where do you begin? Where do you say what was real, what wasn't, why it happened? Everybody has all these, my headspace wasn't good, it's all set and setting. Look, man, you can do all that. You can have everything perfect. And if the psychedelic decides it wants to take you on a bad trip and rip apart everything you ever knew, it's going to. You know, it really is about being able to let go. How much control you can let go of. Because when you're going through a bad trip, the best thing is just to let go and let it run its course. And it's the easiest thing, but we like to fight. We want to be in control. And that's what causes a lot of bad trips to turn into something that has scarred you for the rest of your life. And God knows I have a lot of scars. So what do? How do you go about life like this? Well, the best thing is to stay away from drugs of any kind, because any kind of drug can enter, even opiates can cause bad trips to resurface, because you know you're doing something wrong in your life again, and you're doing all the wrong things to get it, and it kind of brings it to the forefront in your dreams. The only way that I found to kind of offset it is by doing good things and trying to keep nothing but love in your heart. That's all you can do, because bad trips are not filled with love and acceptance, of course, or they wouldn't be so bad. And there's always a reason these kind of things are brought to the forefront of your thought processes when you're under the influence of hallucinogens. And MDMA, I think, is a great way to help people, because especially if you're under a doctor's care, you're not going to have a bad MDMA trip, because those are really caused by overtaking, not having enough nutrients in your body. MDMA of itself is an entheogen. You just feel so much empathy already, so you're not going to have a bad trip. But it's also a psychedelic, and it's a good way to go in there into your mind and look at these things that have happened to you and try to make sense of them. A lot of therapists aren't prepared to take on people with psychedelic PTSD, because it's something that's not really talked about a lot, right? Just someone had a bad trip and that's all there was to it. But no, it's a real bad trip, not a difficult experience. Not that time that you just swore to God something was talking to you, or you felt an evil presence and you got over it and you wanted to do it again. That's no. A bad trip is where you are wanting to kill yourself, like literally not wanting to, like you're trying to commit suicide just to make it end, right? That's what a bad trip is. A real bad trip is something that you never really come back from. You're always there, and I always am. Even on, years without taking any drugs, it'll still come back. It'll come back in my dreams. A smell, something will make me think of these things that I've seen. And like I said, it's kept on even after I stopped taking psychedelics. Just in my dreams themselves, I would find myself at ego death. So you're not the only one that these things have happened to. You're not the only one that is scarred by psychedelics. There are a lot of us out there, and a lot of us don't like to talk about it because there's this absolute bullshit macho way of thinking of, oh, you can't handle yours. Well, I can handle mine. I've been taking 1,000 trips, and I'm fine. And shut up, dude. Don't worry about people like that. Those are also, just people who think that they're doing all right, but they can't keep a job. They can't tie their shoes, and they can't even bathe correctly. So don't worry about people like that. But it's something that needs to be talked about. It's something that all of us have had to go through it, need to have a place to talk about it at. And this channel is tailor-made for people who have had experience with any kind of drug and it scarred them in any sort of way or fashion. I am always here to talk to anybody that's had to go through anything like this, because it doesn't feel like it's taught. You can go on Erowid, like everybody else on YouTube does, and they just take a few stories from Erowid and, read it on their channel, and that's their whole channel. We've actually gone through these kind of trips. We've actually gone through these bad experiences. And Erowid's a good place to read about it, but we need a place to talk about it, to go over it, a place where all of us who have had to experience it can talk about it. I think there's probably some Reddit threads that are really good. I don't care how old this video is, comment on it and I will always respond. I will always respond. You want to find my email and email me, I will always respond, because I understand how it feels to feel alone in this. Like, at reality, happiness, everything I ever knew is just ripped out of me. And I'm forever haunted by these demons. They're always there in the back of my mind. And they're always gleeful to show me that I really have no control. Because you really don't. And, you know, somebody that's had a lot of near-death experience like me, where you've seen your life flash before your eyes, it makes these bad trips that much deeper, because you can see that a lot of these bad trips are kind of true, right? Reality can be ripped away from you at any time. Someday you're going to die, and I promise it's not going to just be you, how you look now with a set of wings, and you just walk up to your dead grandpa and say hello. It's not going to be like that. It is going to be something that you can't be prepared for, you know, to understand. There are a lot of people who think they know what to be prepared for, but they don't. No one does. It doesn't matter how many trips you've been on. You really aren't. The closest thing that I can tell you that I know for a fact is true is, if you're a loving person, then you will reconnect with where all love comes from. If you are hateful, uncaring, and just evil, you will connect with where all evil comes from. And of course, there's a center where most people are stuck in, the constant cycle. Anybody that's been on these trips know this is just a constant cycle, over and over again until you get it right. You can say whatever you want and I can't, and you know that this is going to happen, or that's going to happen. You don't. And I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen either, because I don't know. None of us know. All I can tell you is, if you've had these kind of experiences, don't keep it in. Talk about it. Talk about it with the rest of us, because the rest of us would love to all hear, that somebody else has been through this, because it's a very lonely feeling going through life like this. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you actually made it to the end of my video. I forgot to say like and subscribe at the beginning. Don't worry, I'll put it in text. I love you guys. I hope you have a good day.